Today we are reacting to one of my favorite speakers of all time. I have a few of his books right on the back. His name is Dennis Prager, and he's reacting to the pro-Palestinian movement or the Free Palestine movement. Let's take a look.
I want to link in with the recent protests in favor of Palestine in London and across
I'm glad.
many American cities and European cities. You've seen huge mass protests in favor of Palestine. Some would say even supporting terrorists. And there's this slogan, "Free Palestine." I don't know if you've heard of it.
Of course
You have. Is it moral to say "Free Palestine"?
If the next question is from who, and they say from Israel, it is anti-Semitic to say Free Palestine, because they're against the only Jewish state in the world when there's a bunch of Muslim states, about 50, 52. So if you say Free Palestine from Israel, meaning you don't support the existence of the Jewish state, it's an anti-Semitic remark. Let's continue.
Well, it's accompanied by a clear desire for genocide. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That means no Israel. There is no other case in the world, 200 plus countries, where people demonstrate for the annihilation of another country. Just as there was never any other annihilation of a people except for the Nazis. There is no difference. And I've never compared anyone to Nazis. I think it's actually sacrilegious. But there is no difference in my mind between Hamas, Hezbollah, the Iranian regime on the one hand, and the Nazis on the other. The biggest single difference is that the Nazis hid their exterminationist policies.
The other ones are very vocal about their policies. They're very open about it, very public about it. Yet the world, the West, refuses to believe what they have to say. Or maybe they don't refuse to believe. Maybe they're just like, oh, it's okay. It's the Middle East. We cause these problems onto them. We pose them into that position. We put them in that position. So it means that if we get rid of Western values, then maybe the radical fundamentalists in Islam can chill a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that's what they think.
Whereas these people video it and are proud of it. Iran announces we wish to annihilate every Jew in Israel. The raison d'etre of the Iranian regime is to annihilate Israel. The Germans hid their annihilationists. They hid it from the Jews. They didn't tell them, we're sending you to gas chambers. We're sending you to relocation work camps.
I think for the sake of my country and for yours, I hope that not all of those people who were at those protests support Hamas and support these terrorist acts.
Well, if they don't, they're fooling themselves, and it's irrelevant. See, one of the single biggest themes of my life is that intentions don't mean a damn thing. They are, in effect, advocating genocide when they support, right now, when they support Hamas or Hezbollah or quote-unquote the Palestinian cause. The Palestinian cause is eliminate Israel and substitute for it Palestine. That is the Palestinian cause today. It wasn't necessarily when I don't know, the Oslo Accords were made. Although as soon as they were signed, Arafat sent out suicide bombers to blow up Israeli weddings and bar mitzvahs.
But of course, there are millions of civilians in Palestine or in Gaza and in the West Bank. And people have seen recent footage of people, refugees and devastated, kind of bombed out areas of Gaza, for example. And you can justify that absolutely from Israel's perspective. But I suppose my question is, when those people, if their intention is to say, I want to protect the innocent civilians in Gaza, there's nothing wrong with that, is there? I mean, can you make a distinction between people supporting those innocent civilians and people supporting Hamas?
If you want to protect the innocent civilians in Gaza and you are not chanting against Hamas's removal from the Gaza Strip, then you're not protecting a damn thing. If Hamas remains in power, then the consequences, both for the civilians of Gaza and for the civilians of Israel, are the same. Because if they choose not to attack, their people get peace. Yet Hamas's entire creation is built on destroying the state of Israel. So how can you leave such terrorist organization in power? You can't. So you don't actually care about the civilians. You just care about hating Israel.
Yes, I do. I don't make a big distinction because what would you have said if you were a Brit during World War II, and there were demonstrators only on behalf of German civilians? Would you say, look, they're very supportive of the British war effort. They know that the Nazi regime is despicable, but they really care about German civilians? That would be a hard case to make. So this notion, they don't like Hezbollah, they don't like Iran, they don't like Hamas, they're just worried about those civilians. Please use the analogy of World War II. There are those to this day who think the atom bomb was wrong to be dropped, even though it saved probably 1 million Japanese lives, let alone mass numbers of American lives. After all, they were innocent, and they were. And it was known, and Harry Truman, the president of the U.S., knew it at the time, there are innocent Japanese who will die. Every Palestinian death is caused by Hezbollah or by Hamas or the Palestinian Authority, whichever is involved in that particular war. Just as every German who died in World War II was the victim of Hitler and the Nazis, not a victim of the West.
The reason I'm asking is,
And that's what I say all the time. Not a single person would have to die if Hamas would not have started this war, if Hamas would not have done the Intifada, if ISIS or Hezbollah would not have, not ISIS. ISIS specifically is a different example, but if Hezbollah would not have launched rockets, not a single civilian would have to be dead in Lebanon. Every action leads to a reaction from the country being attacked, which in this case is Israel. What do they have to do with this conflict? What do they have to do with this conflict? Iran. Iran wants to destroy Israel, and they'll do it with all of the proxies that they have, with the Houthis, with Hezbollah, and with Hamas, and with whoever can help them destroy the Jewish state. So an Islamic caliphate can take place.
because as I said, there's been so many people protesting in London, and those protesters have vandalized statues of people like Winston Churchill. They've done things which I think is completely abhorrent. Some of them wore stickers which were literally supporting Hamas with the paraglider, etc. So there are some really terrible people in those protests. However, hundreds of thousands of people have gone on those protests, and I really don't want to believe that every single one of them is morally wrong. And I know people who went on those protests who I know this is how they think. They think Israel is killing people in Gaza, and I want to protect those civilians in Gaza.
I gave the analogy. Britain was killing people in Germany, and Germany was killing people all over Europe. So if somebody went to a demonstration on behalf of Germany during World War II, he would be a despicable human being.
So do you think that those despicable...
Very good point. That's what I love about Dennis Prager. He's very, very good and sharp with his explanations. He has an amazing debate in Oxford, and the title of the debate is Hamas a greater threat to peace than Israel? Magnificent debate. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's amazing how he destroys every single point of the opposition. You better watch this after this one.
Human beings, in your words, are ignorant? Are they willfully ignorant? Why do they think like this? I mean,
yes, they're willfully ignorant. That's right. If you would say to them, they are willfully ignorant, and they're willfully deceptive, including to themselves. Because I have dealt with this so much in my life. I mean, people should watch my 7 minutes, my debate in Oxford on the whole subject of Hamas. It's as if I gave the talk yesterday. But I remember at a speech at Stanford University, and a pro-Palestinian woman, American, not of Middle Eastern descent, came over and said, "I agree with you. I'm for peace." I go, "That's lovely. I am for peace too," which is the truth.
I am for peace as well, by the way.
And I asked her, "So, are you for peace with Israel as the Jewish state or a Jewish state?" And she said, "No." I said, "Then you're not for peace." I said, "So you're not for peace with Israel. You're for peace without Israel." And that's what all those demonstrators are, all of them. If there are demonstrators who think Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state, then they are being willfully ignorant. Or they want to make their family happy. They don't want to be, everybody's going to the demonstration and I'm going to sit home. Most people are sheep, including most Westerners. But there is no possible moral explanation for attending one of those demonstrations.
It's funny, though. The majority of the people going to these protests are not even Westerners. They're Middle Easterners coming from the Middle East. They're Muslims who share the same traditions, the same culture, the same hatred towards the Jewish state. They're not Westerners. Some are Westerners who are sheep, who follow blindly this movement, but the majority, in the UK especially, are not Westerners. They're Middle Easterners.
On that side.
What is the consequence of having so many people in Britain and in America who support these people?
The consequence is getting Churchill's statue torn down. That means your civilization is being torn down. These people don't happen to hate Jews and love Britain and love what you stand for. Okay? They loathe what you stand for, but the Jews are in the way. The notion that Jew haters, Jew exterminators are the Jews' problem is the single stupidest attitude a non-Jew can have. That's the Jews' problem. That's like saying that cancer is, and then name a group. It's their problem. Cancer is universal. Jew hatred, whatever you think about Jews, okay? I don't even care if you love Jews or don't love Jews. It's irrelevant to my point. It's just a fact. Those who wish to wipe out the Jews wish to wipe out all that is good. They are not sweet people who happen to have a loathsome heart vis-a-vis Jews. That not massive numbers of non-Jews want to delude themselves like Neville Chamberlain did, that is because the ability of people to fool themselves is infinite.
Because,
by the way, non-Jews who are anti-Semitic will find a reason to accuse the Jews of anything. For example, there's no cure for cancer, so they will blame the Jews for holding the cure for cancer from the world. It's because of the Jews that people are dying from cancer. They'll find any event in the world, 9/11, and they'll connect it to the Jews in some way.
Chamberlain famously talked about Czechoslovakia being a faraway place of which we know nothing. But Israel, there are some America First conservatives in America who say the same thing about Israel.
That is exactly correct. And I asked them rhetorically, because they don't come on the show generally, but I would happily have them. But I would say, what is your argument with Neville Chamberlain? He said that Czechoslovakia, exactly what you said is what I have been saying. He said Czechoslovakia is not our business. And for that matter, Hitler's anti-Semitism is not our business. Our business is Britain. Yeah, it cost the Brits a lot of lives, that naivete.
So do you feel that Israel's fight is America's fight?
Totally. It's the Western world's fight. It's the fight of good versus evil. If this isn't good versus evil, and you can't even come to that conclusion that it's good versus evil, that doesn't mean Israel's perfect. Good isn't perfect. America wasn't perfect, but the fight against the Soviet Union in the Cold War was good versus evil. When I was at Columbia University studying, and that was my field, Soviet Union, communism, I learned Russian. I went to the Soviet Union a number of times.
Brilliant guy, guys, I'm telling you. And I am totally fanboying right now about Dennis Prager. He's amazing.
I was at the School of International Affairs. This was my field. And I was taught overwhelmingly by my professors that the battle in the Cold War was two superpowers fighting for hegemony. It was not freedom versus tyranny. It was not good versus evil. When Ronald Reagan called the Soviet Union an evil empire, he was excoriated by all the newspapers of America, except, I believe, the Wall Street Journal.
I want to come back to this issue of mass immigration and demographic changes in Europe and America, because I'm so concerned when I see these people protesting, and there are so many people in Britain and in Western countries who despise the countries that they are in. How can we reconcile that as a society, as Western civilization? What is the solution to this when we've imported so many people who despise our values, despise everything about Britain or America or wherever they're in, and they're here now, and they haven't integrated. So what do we do about that?
Mass deportation. That's what you're supposed to do. Mass deportation.
First thing you do is repent. And the people you called racist for opposing this mass migration, apologize to them. Because it had nothing to do with race. None whatsoever. It has to do with values. If you bring people in who have opposite values of your society, you bring them in enough numbers, your society will suffer. At least let's tell the truth. You don't want to blend into a free, open democracy, a tolerant democracy? You're a big problem in our midst. At least tell the truth. Truth is liberating.
But do you think that
if you bring a bunch of people from the Middle East, a bunch of Islamists from the Middle East, and you let them enter the UK and they have homophobia, what do you think it's going to do to the rate of homophobia in the UK? Do you think it's going to increase it or decrease it? Of course it's going to increase it. So when you bring people who oppose your values, it's going to affect negatively on your country.
Multiculturalism is compatible with liberal democracy?
Oh, I said it isn't. No, multiculturalism means multi-morality.
But we have multiculturalism. So how
yes,
do we,
and look,
so what do we do?
What do you do? Repent. I've no
There's no
at least
answer.
tell the truth. At least let there be a clear.
Why can't you do deportation? Why can't you deport people who are opposing the values of the West? Why can't you do mass deportation of people who, support terrorism? Why can't you do mass deportation to, a group of people that's a lot of them are accused of raping white British girls? And you can look at the list. You can look at the names of the people who are accused of raping. Ahmed Muhammad. And that's from Gatsad. I saw his podcast on Joe Rogan. You can't let them stay. It's going to end civilization in the Western world. And they will replace it with Sharia law and laws that the West does not agree with. Dennis Prager is absolutely incredible. I love this guy. I have a few books of his. They're not about this topic. They're called the Rational Bible. And they take the Bible, and after every sentence, there's a rational explanation, so it's easier to understand. Because me growing up, it was incredibly difficult for me to read the Bible and understand the message behind it, because even with ancient Hebrew or the Holy Hebrew, for a student, it's very difficult to understand. And I went to a secular school. I didn't go to a religious school. The books that he has, I'll show you one. This one is Exodus. Okay, and then it's, this is the guy, Dennis Prager. And every sentence here has an explanation. So for example, 2:18, he said, "How is it that you have come back so soon today?" And then there's translation. Apparently the women were often detained by bullying shepherds at the well, so their father grew accustomed to their late return. So everything is explained. Everything. It makes the whole thing a lot easier to understand. I don't know if you can see. So Dennis Prager is remarkable. I'm a big fan of his. And if you want to learn more about the topic and how to debate more about the topic, he's the guy for you. He is. But that's it for today. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends, because we're trying to grow this community and become international. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.